It says, Vayechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim. Yaakov lived in the land of Mitzrayim. Baal Turim brings down that Vayechi is gematria 34, because the most living years that Yaakov experienced was the first 17 years of Yosef's life and the last 17 years when Yaakov Avinu was reunited with Yosef. The question is, why were those last 17 years the greatest years of his life? Understood that he was connected with his son again, he now understood that, but on a certain level, he was in the Mitzrayim, in the darkest place, and he knew that this was the beginning of a long and dark galus for Klal Yisrael. So usually we think of it as Yaakov Avinu sitting around a table, and he had all his kids together and all his iniklach, and they were all wearing matching suits and matching headbands, and he was sitting there and saying, such nachas. But there has to be a deeper dimension going on here. We could say maybe that Yaakov Avinu had a recognition in those last 17 years. He realized something so important for us for the rest of time. What he realized was that for 22 years, Yaakov Avinu lost his son Yosef HaTzadik. And he was sitting in mourning in the deepest darkness that anyone's ever experienced. Ad kei kach it says that he was so closed off that he couldn't receive the Shekhinah, which would always obviously come to him normally, but in those times, he was in such darkness he couldn't receive the Shekhinah. Because of that, he was totally closed off from recognizing even that Yosef HaTzadik was really alive. Comes after those years, the last 17 years of his life, that he comes down to Mitzrayim and he sees that Yosef HaTzadik is really still alive. He realized not just the joy of, now I have my son, my precious son, the one that's going to continue the line of Klal Yisrael, but really he realized something much deeper. That in those 22 years, all of the darkness that he had retroactively was all false, because Yosef was really alive the whole time. And therefore, in those last years of his life, in the darkest place of Mitzrayim, he was able to be filled with such joy. A joy that's not just for him then, but for us and for every single person forever. In this galus that we're still experiencing. What is that joy? That joy is to recognize in all the darkness that it's not true. That within all this darkness, if we would have enough simcha, even though we're going through what we're going through, then we would be able to have the Kabbalas Shechina, we would have the Ruach HaKodesh to see that really there is no galus, that really Yosef is still alive, that really what we're going through, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still with us in it. And therefore, for all of us now, if we could take this in a moment of saying in Shemona Esrei, Elikei Yaakov, whenever we get that moment to think about the aspect of Yaakov Avinu, and if we're going through a dark time and we don't seem to have any way out of it, how are we going to get out of it? We could just take chizuk from this aspect of Yaakov's last years of his life, where he was in Mitzrayim, a place of gashmius, of difficulties and darkness, but he was able to be filled with chiyus, filled with life. Why? Because he recognized that, for all of us, that we should all recognize also, that within all this darkness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still here. He's not gone. And if we have enough simcha in the darkness, just from this recognition, then sometimes we'll be zocheh to have the Ruach HaKodesh to see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really with us in this darkness. May Hashem help us to have this aspect of Tchi Ruach Yaakov, to have this liveliness from this understanding that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always with us. He never, ever, ever leaves us alone. Have a wonderful day.